She's funny, she's smart, she craves chocolate every day, and she is the Greek goddess of comedy. Here is your host, Ellen Karis.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Karis's Comedy Corner. My name is Ellen Karis, and you are listening to the guest edition of Karis's Comedy Corner. We have a fantastic guest for you today. I'm very, very excited. But first, we always have to thank our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Baywalk Marketing. Go to their website, baywalk.net, for all of your advertising and marketing needs. They can help you with your social media. They can help you with the flyer. They're experts in the Greek community. Go to their website, hollywoodgreeks.com, to find out where all the Greek entertainment is, and hellenicfestivals.org to find out where there is a Greek festival near you. Also, our other sponsor is SelectFlex. What is it? It's an orthotic. What's an orthotic? It's also called an insert, and you put it in your shoe. Why? Because your entire body needs it. Everything starts from the feet up. It's good for your shins, your knees, your hips, your back, your entire alignment. They are so comfortable. I live in New York City. I walk all over the place. They're great for sneakers. I never work out without them. Uggs, ladies, we know that those have no support. And for Karis Comedy Corner listeners, there is a discount of 25% if you type in the code FAMILY25, FAMILY 25, get a 25% discount, because you, my listeners, I feel are like my family, except I don't fight with you as much. But I cannot stress how great these are. And if you go to their website, selectflex.com, you're going to see a 30-second video which shows you this genius adjustability in the arch that helps with the arch, make it firm, extra firm, extra firm, depending on what your needs are. State-of-the-art, patented product, amazing. Selectflex.com, highly recommend it. As I always say, best invention since suitcase on wheels. All right. I am very excited because I have a guest that I do not know. And we just spoke about 10 words right before he came on. I follow him on Instagram. It is so funny. And it's called Excuse Me, You're Greek. And I think it's said like that, like, excuse me, you're Greek. But you don't have to be Greek to enjoy it, because it's so funny. I love the way, and the band behind Excuse Me, You're Greek is Thanasi's Papoulias, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong. And I just am so impressed as how he puts these videos, these very short 10-second, 15-second, sometimes they go 30-second videos. They're so funny. It totally makes my day. So without further ado, allow me to introduce somebody that I don't know, Thanasis Papoulias. Did I say it right?
Papoulias, close enough.
Papoulias.
It could go either way. I know people that pronounce it the other way, so
okay,
it works. But that's the issue us Greeks always have, is that name. My worst fear growing up was that substitute teacher walking in, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna get it right now.
Right.
So
Right. Well, the accent, they're very bad. Like, I know. I just didn't know where the accent was, but I can.
Of course.
Like, we can all pronounce each other's name. I mean, Thanasi, of course. The first names are easy. So
sure.
it's just the last name. So it's just where we put the accent.
Yeah.
We still use accents in our alphabet, by the way, everybody, just so you know.
Yep.
So you're hilarious.
Thank you.
The video that got me, and then I was like, oh God, I really want to get him on, is the one where I can't even say it, where Bethany Frankel complains about Mykonos. Everybody, you have to see. It is so funny, the commentary, because a lot of your videos, I don't know, but maybe half of your videos have like you on the side giving commentary to the video of whatever it is, which is great. Yeah. I am in awe, by the way, of your skills, because
Thank you.
I'm like, if you ever see my page and like my videos, it's the same thing with me. My phone's right here. It's always on this side. I don't even switch sides. And I just talk like I have no ingenuity whatsoever.
It's taken a while to get used to that. I've had the page now for 6 years. So it's
wow.
changed. Yeah, it's changed over time. It was 2016 when I launched it. And back then it was like a meme page, right? Like, it was just photos of funny images, and I'd write a comment on top. And it's just morphed into what it is today. And I think that's based on, I think, where the social media trends are going, and now I think you just need to be a little more personable. People want to see your face, and it took a lot for me to get in front of the camera. I never wanted to be somebody who's in front of the camera, and I still get nervous every time I'm in front of the camera. So,
I got that vibe from you for some reason, because I know that your older posts were posts with your comments or you write something on it. And then it was later that I saw your face and I was like, oh, that's who it is. That's what he looked. And then I looked to see your name, because to me, you were Mr. Excuse Me, you're Greek. Like, I didn't even know you had a name. So
exactly.
And I definitely want to get into this more, but I had no idea.
Bethany.
You went to your page that you are definitely Greek.
Definitely
right?
Greek.
This is you.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, wait, hang on a second. Hang on. I didn't realize.
You got it all.
Wait,
Hang
on. Wait, I had no idea that this was you. I don't know who I thought it was, but last Christmas, sorry, my paper just dropped. Christmas before last, not I don't think this past Christmas. I guess
it was recent. I remember. Yeah, you had reached out about the mugs. I remember.
I didn't know that was you until
yeah.
I don't know, the other day. And and it's funny, I bought a bunch to give as gifts. And everybody loves it. So that's why I have a few. Well, one I actually is for, I have my own, of course.
Yeah.
But I give them as gifts and I love them and they're cute. And I think I asked you, right? Typical Greek. Does this come bigger?
Yeah. For more coffee, of course.
Can I get this?
I remember it.
Size? Right. Because
yes.
Yeah, because I like a 12 ounce. But anyway, it's adorable. I love it. I love,
Thank you.
So guys, he's got a website, he's got a store. It's again, very, very interesting how the mati, 15 years ago ish, I think, took off. All of a sudden it was like people were wearing it, bracelets that were thousands and thousands of dollars, gold, and I'm just, and we're all laughing okay, we've had this since birth. It was pinned in the crib, with a safety
of
pin.
Course, on my baby clothes. I remember I have pictures on my baby clothes.
You didn't leave the hospital without the mati pinned onto your little, they didn't even have the snuggly, that whatever, your little onesie that you left with. You were still born out of your mother's womb and they put a mati on you. But now it's all over the place. It's just, it's beyond,
It's definitely a pop culture icon now, I want to say. So you got to it's everywhere. Non-Greeks know it, and it's everywhere. I mean, if you go search Evil Eye on any of the stores, even Amazon, you'd be surprised as to what comes up.
So I got this. As a matter of fact, I wanted to buy it from you, but I think I couldn't get the size or whatever. So I got this from Amazon. I mean, they have a zillion of them. A zillion.
Yeah, they're everywhere. They're everywhere now. So
tell again. I don't know you. Not that you really know me, but where are you from? Where you live in LA? I guess. So give us your story, how you got here, what you do for a living.
Sure. Well, what I do for a living coincides with this. So I actually do marketing and social media for primarily restaurants and the food and beverage industry. So I manage social media accounts and marketing for 12, 13, 14 restaurants. Now I don't even know where I'm at, but that's primarily what I do. So that's my day to day. 6 years ago, I had the thought of, excuse me, are you Greek? Because like everything else I've done in life that I've created, I just didn't like what was out there. And not to say that it's good or bad. I'm not judging. I just personally didn't like the Greek content that was out on the internet for meme pages. I thought it was very stagnant. I thought it was this joke's been told for 10 years. Actually, if you marry a girl named Susie, you're going to get a sandwich. You marry a Greek girl, you get a pastito. Okay. I remember that when I was a teenager, those jokes. So not, like I said, not that it's good or bad. It's just, I thought I could do better. I thought I could offer something more. So as a joke and not putting any thought into it, I just started the page. And the funny thing is the page had a different name before it had, excuse me, are you Greek? Mm-hmm. The first version of it was called Tomelo Macarono. And it was a play on a site. What was it? It was, there were all these meme pages of just random objects, right? Like beige cardigan and happy this. And I'm like, you know what? That's what I'm going to call it. Tomelo macarono. That's my favorite dessert. And that's what I came up with. So if
Uh-huh.
you go to my first post for maybe the first 6 months, you'll see them all branded as Tomelo macarono.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, you know what? I didn't like that branding idea. As a marketer, I'm like, I think I could do better. I think there's something better there. And the phrase, excuse me, are you Greek, is something my friends and I have been saying since we were teenagers. We just thought it was funny. Whenever you'd hear somebody speaking Greek, that's the first thing that comes out of your mind is that, or your mouth
Right. Right.
is, oh, excuse me, are you Greek? Are
Right.
you
Right.
Greek? You know, and that excitement that builds. So that's where that name came from. So shortly thereafter, it turned into Excuse Me, Are You Greek? And that's the name I took off with, probably, at the beginning of 2017.
So are you born in America or are you from Greece? You were born in
Yeah,
Greece.
no, I was born in San Diego, moved to the LA area years ago in the 90s when I was in seventh grade is when that move happened. So I've been in Los Angeles ever since, visit Greece as frequently as I can, but
And your parents,
yeah.
like, is your family still live in San Diego? Is that
No. They're up in the Los Angeles area also. We moved up.
okay?
We all
You all
moved
moved
up here.
together?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. We all moved together for business opportunity, a restaurant, of course. And
Mhm.
that's what happened. And so I've been in LA ever since. But yeah,
Where,
born and raised in
where,
San Diego.
where,
Not
like, sort of LA, like LA's big when people go, like, which sort of area?
Yeah. So I was raised in a city called Downey,
Mhm.
California. And now I live closer to the beach, south by Long Beach in a city
Okay.
called Seal Beach.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So I'm a New York Greek. I don't know if you could tell by my accent, but
No,
and
not at all.
which is which is its own subculture. New York
Sure.
Greek is its like own. I don't. Do you come here at all? Have you come here? Have you come
I,
to New
I
York?
have been in the past, but I communicate with a lot of Greeks online from New
Right.
York. So
You got to
I know it
come.
well.
You got
I
to
know it
come.
well.
Yeah, you definitely got to come. You got to check it out. It's very different from LA.
Oh, for
We're
sure.
obviously we're much more ethnic here for sure. And although it's, there's a lot of land here and, we're spread out. But like, so I live in Manhattan. So I actually go to the cathedral, like the main church. But we've got I don't know how many on the island, probably like 10, 12 on Manhattan. There's
Yeah.
Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island only has one church. Long Island has a whole bunch of churches. New Jersey has a whole bunch of churches. Westchester has 3 churches. That's a county, New York State. So we've got
Right.
so much. I always say where there's a Greek church, there's Greeks. Like that's where,
Sure.
that's like how you figure it out. And then, Ellis Island is right here. So like my heritage, it was Ellis Island and then the A train to Washington Heights. Like that's like, they just took
That's
the
it.
subway up and like people just they got off the island, they took the subway and they just then
Yeah.
landed someplace. And so that's kind of how that was. So I'm always fascinated with Greeks out of this area, and but like Boston too, because it's not that far. So people
Sure.
here, they went. Massachusetts had a huge, I mean, still has a big Greek population, but a huge Greek population. But like Greeks that have gone west, like that blows my mind because like I thought we were all here, and really when I started to do stand-up comedy. 20 years ago, I started getting into the Greek stuff, probably more like 15 years ago. So, doing Greek shows. And like, I went to Utah and I remember getting the
Oh
call,
yeah.
like, no,
Yeah.
I mean, so I just find it, I find it wild, but I had an uncle that lived in LA. My mother's brother, he went to school at UCLA. He was like the only one from the family to like leave the area because everybody else is in like a 50-mile radius.
Sure.
So he went to UCLA, he stayed, he got married, divorced, whatever. So I'm familiar with LA and over the, went out over the years and over the years. He moved a couple of years ago, right? He made the right decision. He moved in 2019, end of 2019, because he wanted to live in like wine country. I mean, he was just ready to get out and get an apartment,
Sure.
wanted to buy a house and, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, so I've been to St. Sophia's
Okay.
and which looks like the Palace of Versailles. It's like so crazy
That's
ornate.
where I got married, by the way.
Oh,
So
really? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and baptized my children. Yeah, yeah.
So, and you're friends with Angelo, right? Angelo Tsaroukis, you guys,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
We crossed paths quite a bit out here. Yeah.
So Angie and I have done a ton of shows together. So I got to meet him a bunch of years ago. He actually was doing something in Caroline's, and he emailed me to open for him. And I was like, I was waiting for you to,
That's
I
awesome.
hear from you someday, and we're very good friends. So I did St. Sophia's. I've been to St. Sophia's. I did do in 2010, St. Nicholas in Northridge. I had done
That's where my wife is from. So you're hitting all the churches that I'm involved with.
So that, yeah. So, as a matter of fact, I'd love to go back. I'll never forget that night, and I still quote it. So they hired me, maybe it was 2012. It was probably, I think it was 2012. They hired me, and then the night of the show, maybe they had like 90 people, and they were so apologetic. They had no idea that there was like a huge wedding. I don't know, maybe it was yours. I don't know, but it was like
No.
a huge wedding, and they, like 600 people were going. And I was like, okay, so I don't know what to say. I think they're like, they were bummed. But I did do also St. John's in Anaheim, St. John the Baptist. And that was amazing. I had such a great time. But that's kind of about it. And then I went to Oakland 100 years ago. And then I did another one outside of San Francisco. The name of the town escapes me. But anyway, there's so much there. But it's different because it really is so spread out.
It's spread out.
Yeah.
That's the main difference, is it's spread out. But like you guys, we identify with the churches out here. So where you find the church, you find a community, and then built around that, you find the Greek dance groups as part of the Greek dance program and the competition that we do every year, the basketball teams, Goya. So when somebody says, yeah, I'm Downey, I'm Northridge, I'm Long Beach, you know exactly what church they identify with, which church they're part of. It's the same thing, but again, it's spread out. So some churches out here, like you mentioned, St. Sophia and St. Nicholas. So those two churches probably have the biggest diameter of constituents, meaning they cover a lot of ground and from a lot of different areas. St. Nicholas, for example, has the whole valley, the North Valley of Los Angeles, which is a huge area. So those two alone are probably they are the largest. And then as you kind of move out from central Los Angeles, you'll get into these smaller communities that are more tied to, the geographic region and the location of the church. Like perfect example of that is St. Catherine's in Redondo Beach. I mean, that's a small clique. The Downey community, the same thing. They're tied by geography and the church over there.
Yeah. The one I'm dying to go to the next time I come is the one in Santa Barbara, because that looks like that church is like, it's up on a hill and it faces the ocean. I mean, look like out of Greece. It was spectacular. It was amazing. Like I said, it just fascinates me. So I grew up in New York City in a neighborhood called Washington Heights, where there was at the time a lot of Greeks there. I mean, now it's like very Spanish. I mean, there were Spanish people too, but they like totally took over. The Greeks moved out, you're right. And then, and people moved to the suburbs and all that. But I went to Greek parochial school from kindergarten to 7th grade, same kids. The church, I mean, everything was like, my whole life was that the Brownies was there, ballet was there, every social event I was there. We all went to each other's birthday parties. It was like we were Amish, in a way, like we were like so tight knit. But you walked around a lot of Greek, like the baker was Greek, the shoe man was Greek, there were a bunch of pizza.
Oh, that's cool.
So it really I really got very entrenched in it. It's a huge part of who I am. And so that's different. And we still have not as many as when I was growing up, but we still have Greek parochial schools. And the one that's still around is St. Demetrius in Astoria, which goes up to high school. So, but Astoria is... Well,
if anywhere, it's going to be Astoria, right? Isn't that the biggest concentration of Greeks?
Right. But Astoria is not as Greek as it used to be. I mean, again, that has changed over the years. People have moved out, et cetera, so all that, a big changing environment. What I found fascinating with St. Sophia was that it was, because you guys don't really have like a Greek neighborhood, like in Astoria.
Right. No, there's no Greek town. There's no Greek neighborhood. There's nothing like that.
Right. And St. Sophia is in a a Spanish neighborhood. And I remember reading the history on the website of like how it came about and all that other kind of stuff. But anyway, it is different. But it's funny, but then kind of when you go to the church and you're hanging out with everybody, it's like, oh, we're all the same,
Exactly.
So,
they even call that area the Byzantine Latino quarter of Los Angeles because it's
really? Oh, wow.
And there's a huge sign now that's erected over the building right next door to Saint Sophia. But yeah, like you were saying, there's no Greek town, there's no central point where people can go. And that's what makes us more spread out, is there's no central location for everybody to just fall back on. So we rely on each community to kind of do their thing. Saint Sophia's festival is the big Easter picnic, and then I think they have another fundraiser in September, but every church has their festival. The one cool thing we do have out here that I always love to brag about, because I think it's the coolest thing outside of Greece, anywhere, I'm talking anywhere in Canada, anywhere in Australia, and anywhere in the US, is what we call FDF, the Greek Folk Dance Festival. And that happens traditionally it happens every President's Day weekend. Sometimes when Lent hits, it moves to Martin Luther King weekend, but it's every year in February, President's Day weekend. And every church practices for months. Like tonight, actually, my wife is taking our kids to the kickoff of the dance program, which will start practicing from now for their competition in February. And every church has different age groups that participate. It's upwards towards 100 groups, and they all gather together one weekend out of the year. Thousands of people, all Greeks, in a hotel, taking it over. It's the most amazing thing ever. And when we're talking about competition, this isn't just, put some tsaruji on the kids and let them go kick around. I mean, the pristine nature of the movement of what those kids are doing at such a young age will fascinate you. I mean, it's traditionally on point, meaning the costumes, the movement. I get chills just thinking about it. And every year when I just go there, I watch dance. That's all I do, and to see these dances from the different regions and to learn about their history, it's the most amazing thing in the world. And these directors, I mean, they bleed, they sweat in the off season because they go and they study the regions. They want to make sure they're as authentic as possible. So when I say it's the most amazing thing outside of Greece anywhere, I really mean it, and I'll stand by that. And I recommend for anybody to at least come out and check it out once. Just come check it out once. You have to see it.
That's Father Gary Giriakou. Does he?
Yes.
He's one of the.
He's still in charge of it. Yes.
In charge of it. I remember we had some conversation, this was quite a while ago, about me coming out and doing comedy, because it's a whole weekend event. So I'm familiar with what you said. I mean, you're describing it really well. And then I'll see the pictures on Facebook.
Sure.
I'd love to, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's time for that, if there's time for a comedy show, because it sounds like there's like so much going on.
No, there is. Yeah, so it starts Thursday night is the opening ceremonies. Friday, Saturday is competition during the day. And then at night, they usually have an event. So Saturday night is either, it's been a comedy show. When I ran FDF, when I was on the management team from 2004 to 2006, I remember I put on a comedy night one night. It was with Basil back in 04 or 05 when I was in charge of events. So, that was one night. There's Glendia the other night. And then there's Glendia after the Glendia until like the early morning and in the hallways. It's truly an amazing event. So
wow, that's great. You know what? Maybe I'll, after this, I'll reach out to Father Gary and just
reach out to Father Gary and tell him I said we got to bring you out.
Yeah, just see if he's interested. Basil is also a very good friend of mine, so we've worked together and we're good friends. And
let me tell you a story about that. So everybody was very hesitant because that was one of the first times we had done a more produced event where we had somebody, and I was really pushing for Basil. So I'm the one that reached out. I picked him up from the airport. I brought him out. And I sat down, and as the show's starting, I remember I was sitting. So to the left of me, I had the bishop and the two priests. To the right of me, I had the managing director and the management team. And I had no idea how people were going to take it, because there are some things where Basil says, curse words. And I'm like, okay, I think it's funny, but some of them I forgot. So I just remember the first joke he came out with was the whole Faka the rat, and he was doing this on stage. And I'm like looking over and I see like the bishop there, and the bishop had a straight face. But when he brought it home the second time, I saw the chuckle and the smile crack. So I'm like, okay, I breathed a sigh of relief.
I know exactly what you're saying. Exactly.
Yeah.
Basil's great. I love him. I love him and Ange. They're like brothers to me. And he's a pro. And, so he knows.
Yeah.
Even if he's on stage and he sees someone uncomfortable, he knows what to do. So
Yeah.
It's funny.
No, totally.
This last Saturday night, I was in Denver. I did a show for the Papoulias-Excuse in Denver, which was canceled 2 times because of COVID.
Sure.
And so we finally put it together. We got it together, booked the date and everything. I emailed them a month and a half ago. I'm like,
Are we doing it?
We're doing it. And because I told the woman, I go, listen, I'm just going to come to your living room. Like, you just get your friends and, we'll just do it. And anyway, so speaking of bishops, and it's a little tied to Saint Sophia. The bishop was there, Bishop Chronopoulos, who is Jean Chronopoulos's brother, who was at Saint Sophia, who every time I went there, I met Gene. He gave me his script on Billie Holiday. He was an actor. He loved performing, the arts. He tried to get like Los Angeles Greeks in Hollywood together, and right? So and I'm sorry to hear that he passed away last year. It was such a nice man. I mean, I've been to Saint Sophia maybe 5 or 6 times, and every time I went in, like, he would just come across and just be like, "Oh, Ellen, so nice to see you." So he was there. So he's in his 90s, and the table, of course, they put it right in front of me,
Right.
And then the priest was there, and when I do a show, mostly, I like to come in, and I came in to actually do a sound check with them, but then I like to go into a room and just be by myself and do my, I got a lot of thoughts in my head. I'm like, I'm doing an hour and 15 minutes. It's like,
I can only imagine. I
don't bring notes, everything's like, and then whatever I say off the cuff. And so I didn't get to meet, once in a while I get to meet the priest before, but I didn't this time. So, I didn't get a gauge. And so thank God. It was a great show. Everybody had a lot of fun. And when I got off, the priest came right over to me and he was like, "Oh my gosh, that was so funny," whatever. So later the bishop was leaving. So I went over to him to say hello and that I knew his brother and whatever. And I'm sort of like waiting for a reaction, like, I was like, "Oh, I hope you enjoyed yourself." And he's like, and I'm just like, okay, either he thought I sucked or he just really didn't get some of my references, or I don't know, maybe couldn't hear me. I don't know, but I got nothing. So it's like, you know what? I think I'd rather get nothing than like, that was
than the booze.
Not that, right. Not that I do. It's funny. If I could, I'd love to drop like a malaka in church. I mean, I would definitely drop a few more words. I mean, I'm from New York, so my normal life I curse. It's a second language for us. But and when I get to do a Greek show that's obviously not in a church environment, then you kind of let it rip. But I don't. But I hold back, and I just do what I do. But so yeah, he was there. I feel actually another really quick funny story. So Basil and I were asked to do the clergy lady. I'm going to say, definitely 5 years ago, probably maybe even 6. I swear to God, like I can't.
Well, and with COVID, you have no idea, because you got to talk about in years pre-COVID, because COVID ate up like 2.5 years. So
right, I know, but it's like, is that 10? Was it 15?
Right.
Oh my God, So am I doing this long? And this is all I'm at, like that kind of thing, and then it becomes this self-loathing, but that's another thing. Anyway,
we're all there.
So it was in Philadelphia, in an outdoor space. It was called Waterworks. It was like a catering whole restaurant, whatever. Anyway, they were having the comedy show outdoors. Comedy shows outdoors are horrible. I did 2 festivals, and that's it. I don't do festivals. And when people call me, I'm like, "That's nice." I go, "But this is the problem. You're too busy making souvlaki. Okay. And I can't stand there and have like, smoke in my face and people walking around eating. And the first festival I did, they had some chairs in front of me. And I swear to God, a yaya was like fast asleep. Like she came, she sat down and she fucking went out. I mean, I was just.
And that messes with your whole vibe, right? Because you're trying to read the crowd and then you got yaya sleeping.
I'm just like, can someone make sure she's okay? This might be her last hurrah, the festival. Okay. She might have just had her last lukmada, so we should check on her. But anyway, so to get back to the story, so it was chaos. It was people, they were walking around all over the place. It was just so crazy. So finally, we're going to start the show. It's like 9:30. They're telling people to go into the tent, this and that. So I go first. I said to Basil, all right, I'll go first. I get on stage. And the front tables are empty. People are like all the way in the back, and they're talking. It's outside. People, when anything is outside, people are going to talk
and smoke.
So I do my thing, and all of a sudden, in the middle of one of my jokes or something, people got up, and I was like, "Oh my God, you guys are giving me a standing ovation!" I was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." I just finished a joke, and then I turned to my left, and the Archbishop came in with, the umbrella guys and, like his whole entourage. And he like, look, I'm like, oh, that wasn't for me. And then like, he tells everybody to sit down. And I was like mortified. I was like, hi. Like, I couldn't even I don't know whether to say your eminence or like, they were all together. It was crazy. It was just the craziest thing. So
and he walked in the middle of your show at a festival.
Yes. At the clergy lady. It was just Father Demetrius, not El Pitoforos.
Gotcha.
So, and then because I'm like, technically our church is the Archbishop's church. So of course I know him and I met him and I'm like, hi, do you remember Melanie? Do you remember, you always say about my yaya, or you like try to connect. I don't know. It was so bizarre. But anyway, that's what we get for, being, on stage and wanting attention.
Right.
So
of course.
So anyway, I want to get back to all your journey. So how long you're married, by the way?
15 years this week.
Oh, Kronia Pola.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you. 2007.
And, wow. What is your wife Greek? I mean, I hate that question because
Yeah. No, I know. I know exactly what you mean, but yes, she is.
How many kids do you have?
2 little monsters, 10 and 6. So we're right in the middle of like Greek dance and soccer and Greek school, all that fun stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's so nice. And so do your kids know like what you're doing? I mean, your 10-year-old is definitely like in tune with what you're doing.
My 10-year-old definitely does. When he sees me filming some stuff, he starts laughing at first. And then he goes, well, he always asks, is that for one of my clients? Like he'll ask, oh, is that for a restaurant or is that for you? Or, because I'm constantly filming something, if it's food related for my clients or if it's Greek stuff or whatever. So he's definitely in tune. He asks about it. He's starting to understand. And the funny thing is just the other day, for the first time, he realized how many followers I had. And he's like, oh, wow. He's like, that's more than this guy that I follow over here. So I think that was the first kind of reality check that he's like, oh, wow, this is kind of cool. So he asks about it a lot more now. Like, oh, what are you putting up today? Or what's the plan for this week? So it's kind of funny to see how that 10-year-old brain starts thinking when he starts processing things.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. You're like, Faye, all of a sudden he's like, oh my God, my dad's a celebrity.
Yeah, all of a sudden, oh, he's got some notoriety. Okay, cool.
Right.
That's cool. I thought you were just a boring baba.
So, and then what about your wife? Like, what's her whole take on this?
It's funny that you ask because she's always just laughing at and with me. Right. Like when she sees me filming something, she's just chuckling and I always hear it and see it. But what can I say? She loves it when we're here, when we're out and about. She always gives me the pokes when it's somebody, walking up, she's like, this person's going to ask if you're, excuse me, are you Greek? Watch. That person's looking at you. And I get that a lot at festivals, right? Like when we're out and about at festivals or Greek events, I get a lot of people coming up. Oh, are you Greek? Oh, hey, I love your page or this and that. So she's always looking for them ahead of time, just kind of, spotting them. She's like, oh, that, that's probably going to be someone that's going to come bug you in a little bit, because they're always staring off to the side, like wondering if they should come take a picture or ask me about something. We always crack up at that.
Do you ever think of sort of making a longer version of what you do? Or did you ever think of stand-up? I mean, because these are like bits. I mean, I know you have, it's visual too, but.
It is. And I've been told from a very young age that I'm funny. My problem is I don't see it. I don't see it whatsoever. When people say, you're so funny, you're doing this. And I always say, I don't think I'm funny. I think I'm able to observe people well, because all these jokes, everything I say, everything I post about, every meme I make is about something I've observed or experienced. Not that I've come up with it out of the blue. It's stuff I've experienced and I thought was funny. So that's why it's hard for me to get in front of cameras and in front of people. I'm very self-conscious. I get nervous. I definitely couldn't do what you do. And it's, I just don't think I'm there. I don't think I'm funny. I'm more of that observational comedy kind of guy. I can see funny things around me and maybe translate that into jokes in my own spare time, in my own way, but not in front of like live people. Like I'm just even thinking about that gets me sweating.
So yeah, I mean, that's, that is a huge part of it.
It's special. You have to be special to be able to do that. I mean, I think one of the hardest jobs, like even like when I watch America's Got Talent, the comedians are always the most difficult ones, but the ones that are good nail it, So I prop any comedian for being able to get up on stage and keeping an audience for as long as they do.
I know about half of them that have been on that show. So
I'm sure it's a small culture within itself.
It is. And
from what I've heard,
comics never win, they never wind up winning. But I have like a little inside information on that, but you get recognized, you get more bookings, things do happen,
sure.
do happen even if you don't win, but you'll lose to like a dog, you know what I mean? Or someone like a worm
or a dance group.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Or, right.
Exactly.
Somebody that had 72 kids and they're all dancing the river dance at the same time, something that you'd like, no way is it going to happen to you. But so not everybody, wants to be on stage or a performer. You are obviously a very good writer. I mean, that's like a writing, which is fine. I mean, there's some comics that, sometimes they just become writers, which is, I mean, we all
the guy
are
behind the guy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
write
no.
Other people, write shows or whatever.
I'm a big Howard Stern fan. So when I listen to Howard Stern, he's hugely not involved, but he's really into the whole stand-up comedy culture. And he loves bringing on people from SNL and comedians and this and that. And he's always talking to them. And then as Howard Stern's gotten older, I think he's become a better interviewer and he's pulling out this information that people didn't know about people. So I'm very in tune about that whole process and culture and the whole writing bit. People that didn't make it as comics early on, tend to write, maybe get observed later. So I totally get what you're saying there.
Larry David was a horrible stand-up.
Right.
And he would and he'd melt down. Like he couldn't take not getting laughs. I mean, the whole history. And, and then he was, friends with Jerry Seinfeld, one thing led to another. And then it was really later on that he did Curb. I mean, so all those years later, with Seinfeld money and all that, and he plays himself. That is him.
Right.
So from my inside baseball, that's that, but he was but one of the comedy coaches that I had was in the same era as him. And he's like, he remembers him like storming off the stage or people telling him to get off or, just not
going around to the same clubs. It's kind of like the same circuit where people would find each other.
Yeah.
From what I've read, not that I've experienced.
The comments,
I love that.
I was having a conversation with somebody, oh God, who was it? Just recently about the LA versus somebody that I met from LA. It'll come to me. And the comedy scene there versus the comedy scene here. So kind of going back to the logistics, everything's very spread out there, other than Laugh Factory and the Improv being practically next to each
right
other.
there.
And the comedy cellar, not comedy cellar, excuse me, comedy store, being like all on that pretty much on the same road. Everything else is, really, really spread out. And oh my God, who was it? I know. I was the last person I interviewed, Helene Angley. She's from New Jersey, but she grew up in Long Beach, and Comedy Magic, she was a waitress there. And that's when she started to do comedy. And she went to like State or something like that, and then ultimately she made her way east, or she met and then met her husband. She married a long time, but anyway, I was like, who was that? So I asked her, like, on my bucket list is the Ice House in Pasadena. Like, I would love to do that.
That was one of my first comedy shows I've ever. Who did I even go? I don't think I even saw anybody. I think I won tickets from like a radio station, but it's a great venue at the Ice House in Pasadena.
It looks so beautiful.
Yeah.
Definitely. But I did do a spot at the Comedy Store once or twice, and the last time I was out in LA, I did get a spot at Laugh Factory. But it is very tough, and they will throw you off for Kevin Hart to do 2 hours.
I've heard that somebody shows up and boom, the whole show's scrapped.
Because there's not as many there as there is here, because we have stuff in Brooklyn, and we got stuff all over the place. I mean, when Jerry Seinfeld goes into Gotham, like everything gets swept and he goes in, what I mean? He goes in, but Chris Rock, I mean, they'll pop up. The Comedy Cellar is a huge place where they'll come, although they have shows all night long. But there it's much harder, and there's more celebrities there, and they go on stage. Right. It sounds that way, at least. So it's, I think, harder. And also here, I don't know what the landscape is there, but we here in the New York area, we do a lot of fundraisers. So like Long Island, New Jersey, they have firehouses, and like all these firehouses do comedy nights, and like all the schools do a lot of schools do comedy nights. And I do also like a lot of bridal showers, like private or birthday parties, so I don't know if that's that kind of like that same mix. I don't get the impression that you guys have like all that extra outside of I mean, you have comedy rooms, but I don't know if comedians have all of that extra.
Not to that level. I mean, there's a lot of small venues that are popped up around the greater LA area in the last, I say few years, but the last few years has been the pandemic. So the last few years before the last few years, I've noticed some, but there's also Orange County and Long Beach has, there's smaller venues, but a lot of them have popped up over the years. But again, it's not the Laugh Factory. It's not, it's not those places for sure.
So tell me about what you do. You said you do marketing for restaurants. Are they Greek restaurants or just any restaurants?
Some are Greek restaurants, but it's for any kind of restaurant. My whole background has been marketing in the food and beverage industry, and I just kind of married the two, started my own company, and now that's what I do. So I'm mostly, filming, editing, doing content for restaurants, essentially.
So are you a food stylist? It's like a food stylist too? Like you work?
I'm not a food stylist. I have food stylists that work for me.
That's its own job, right? Okay.
Yes. So we'll bring in it depends what we're doing, but everything's transitioning to video. So right now it's a huge pivot in the industry on what people kind of want as far as content goes for social media. So when we used to do staged photography and all that, we'd have a food stylist come in, sometimes the food stylist was the photographer. We would style all the food first and then go back and shoot. But we're doing far less photo shoots nowadays. And it's all about videos and reels and TikTok. And that's what people want to see, how the food is made, the behind the scenes, the interviews, the tips. So I'm in the middle of that transition right now. So the biggest problem I'm trying to solve is finding out how I can get this content created, because I'm one person, so I can't make it all myself, bringing on videographers and freelancers to help me. I mean, I've got years and years worth of content sitting on hard drives, and hey, can you make a video out of this? Go, I need content. You do this, you do that. So that's pretty much where I'm at right now.
So it's so interesting that you said that. So I love to eat. I'm not much of a cook. I make all like the basic things. I like healthy food, but trust me, I can slam down a piece of moussaka, with grape leaves sticking out
That's
of my mouth and then shovel a baklava. So, let me not, let me like full disclosure here. It could be complete.
Sure.
But there's a woman, there's a lot of people on TikTok. I have a few food people, and there's this one woman, her name is Shayna Taylor. And I think she has one of the best video TikTok, I know what you're talking about. So they'll show you how to do something in like speed, and it looks, everything looks like, she'll make even just like matcha, which when I make it, it looks like green mud, and she's got it all whipped and this, it looks like just added, went to the coffee bean place, or, she does the drizzle and pumpkin chia pudding. And I mean, it all looks so good. So, and it's funny because if I had more ambition, I would try to like make some of the and duplicate these things, but there is people that do that. And that
it's harder than you think.
It must.
It's harder than even for me. Like, I'm like, oh, I can do this easily, and I'm doing it. And don't get me wrong, some of the stuff I like that I do, it's good. But then when you see somebody who's a professional videographer specializing in TikTok and Reels, you're blown away. Like you can see the difference, because they understand the technology behind it. So like the one thing I found was my videographer, when he was shooting versus when I was shooting, is he's shooting it in super slow motion. So the frame rate per second is like 10 times that of what I shoot it at. So when you get those cool things where the camera's panning in and panning out and it starts off slow and goes fast, that's nothing more than just tweaking at how fast you're really, editing it. But that's all I thought it was something you can do in post, but it's something that's determined in meaning he's got to know he wants to shoot at that speed. So it's easier to speed it up later, because it's harder to slow things down in post because you don't have all the frames there to slow it down. And so that was just something dumb that I learned, recently, like looking at this guy work. I'm like, how do you get that? I've tried that a million times, 10 different ways. And that's when it came up. Like he's shooting at 240 frame rates per second, and I was only shooting in 36 or 24, whatever the standard is.
Did you go to film school, or did you study marketing?
Marketing. It's marketing, and I was involved in the food and beverage department for a lot of chains and movie theaters and so forth growing up. But I did my MBA, and my focus was on marketing, and that's the way I looked at creating menus for these restaurants and these entities I was involved with. Was, how is the consumer going to see it? What are we going to sell first? What's going to be the eye candy that brings people in, and then what are we really going to try to sell them? So that was always how I approach things, and just decided I'd rather be working for myself, so that transition was made, and I get to make my own hours, but it's a lot more stressful, but I like being able to take my kids to school when I need to, and that sort of thing.
So, I mean, you've seen such an evolution when you, from the time you studied marketing to like where you're at now. I mean, so, hang on to your hat, but like I studied accounting. Like I actually have an accounting background. I'm a CPA.
The bean counters.
I'm like a real CPA and I have an MBA in finance, and I worked on Wall Street. Like I had all that, going, and then, and it was so boring that I had to do stand-up comedy. But
you guys are the marketers, like arch enemy within a company. Like I had to, get everything approved by the bean counters before we can do it. And it was always a fight.
Right. I could totally see that. But I mean that, that, and like, debits are and credits, like some of the main stuff is the same, but the way things are done is so different. It's everything. Everything.
I agree with that. I definitely agree that things have changed, but I think the underlying factor is somewhat the same, right? You're coming up with a message, and it's just how you deliver that message has changed. So that's where the skill set needs to change, right? Because before, when it was like print magazine ads, you would set up a photo shoot, you talk to the editor of the magazine, hey, I want to get into that, I want to get in that month for launching this product, and there was a lot more logistics back then. Now you're talking directly to the consumer, and you have a direct relationship with them, whereas that wasn't there before. So it's essentially the same message, but now you're delivering it differently. So you got to learn the social media ropes. You got to learn digital ads and all that crazy stuff for sure.
So how did you come up with Definitely Greek? And this is your own merch.
Yeah, and that's actually my wife's design. So my wife Sophia was a graphic designer by trade. She's an artist, but she loves to bake, and she married her two passions. So now she does decorative sugar cookies. So her page is Your Sugarista. Go check it out when you get a chance.
Wait a minute. Does she do like mati cakes?
She doesn't do cakes. She's mostly, she does 90% sugar cookies, but they're all hand drawn and painted one by one. She's done a few things like cupcakes and out of the box items before. But yeah, she's the one that designed that particular.
What is
her handle is? It's Your Sugarista, YOUR Sugarista on Instagram. By
the way, I'd leave my husband for a good cookie. I just want you to know. So we're going to follow. Oh, you know what? I feel, I think I'm following her. So these are sort of like mati. Oh my gosh, these are so good.
She does everything. Yeah. She does Greek stuff, non-Greek stuff for weddings.
Very
it's nice. More. Yeah. It's more for events. This isn't your dozen cookies you're going to pick up for a football game on Sunday, because that takes too much time and it's too. Right.
Oh my gosh, look at this, the New Year's cake. Yeah, I saw that. You know what? I think because I wanted to send somebody a vasilopita, and I think she had it with like a mati on top.
Yes, we did. So every year I make a vasilopita for my page, and I put other creators on there, and we cut a piece for everybody. So she's the one that always does that, because I have no skills in the kitchen. That year, there was one year she did the mati.
And I said, do you deliver? Like, can I buy one and ship it to New York? And I think and then I guess she said it doesn't really stay like in shipping, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's all powdered sugar on top. Right, so if you try to ship that, it's not going to look like a mati when you get it. It's going to look like the ocean.
A black eye, right? Oh my God. So look, this is, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You guys are really, what a team. That's just so great. So with your online store, Definitely Greek, how's that going? And you've got
it's going well. That was more of
is that like word of mouth, or like I came across it. It's not like somebody said, oh, I bought this here. So
yeah, it's strictly a word of mouth thing. I don't really market it. It's more as a marketing tool for Excuse Me, Are You Greek? Because I like to do giveaways. I like to use it as something for Excuse Me, Are You Greek? And as a benefit. So anything more than that is just, pure whatever, the whipped cream on top, whatever you want to call it. But it was an outlet for me. I had these ideas about things I wanted to see. And again, everything I do is about stuff I want to see that I can't find. So a lot of, I wanted a Kolokotronis t-shirt. I love Kolokotronis. I'm from Tripoli in Greece, right? So it's like, that doesn't exist. So, that was one of my first designs was Kolokotronis.
I have a joke, which I won't tell you. Hopefully you'll see me someday. And it includes Kolokotroni. And that's so fun. And I just said it Saturday night because it was something that I kept forgetting to say in the rest of the joke. And I remembered it Saturday night and everybody started laughing. I can't believe you just said that. That's hilarious.
It's funny how all that stuff comes full circle sometimes. But yeah, it was just that it was a creative outlet for myself to come up with some cool designs, to just do something to take up some time and use it as a marketing tool for Excuse Me, Are You Greek? So that's essentially what it was.
So what's do you have like a game plan, or you're just having fun with this, or you want to see it go to another level?
I'm having fun with it for sure. But, one of my biggest problems, and it's funny because I remember this lesson in business school, right? My marketing professor was always like, when you have the idea, formulate it and do something with it right away and sell as much as you can of item A, and then come up with version 2 and just make it progressively better, but don't sit on things. My problem is I hate releasing things before I feel like they're ready. And on some level, I'm somewhat of a perfectionist, not in that it has to be perfect, but I have to feel like it's going to be liked a lot. I don't want to just share this or share that. There's a lot of people that always ask me, hey, can you post this? Can you share this? Can you share that? And it's like every other Greek page has already shared it. You don't need any more, and I don't want to be that guy that's just like everybody else. So my biggest problem, and it is a problem, is making sure something is too finely tuned before I release it. So there's 3 projects I'm working on now that have been in the works for about a year. One of them is coming very close to fruition. So that would be what I call the next level for Excuse Me, Are You Greek? But these are all ideas that have been kind of just living in my head for a long time. And it's also finding the time to work on them, right? I mean, 2 kids, home life, work, a lot of times I'm thinking I'm doing Excuse Me, Are You Greek stuff, but I'm like, I have clients, I should be working on their stuff, or trying to perfect that. So
Right.
I battle with that, on a daily basis as well. So but yeah, I think in the next year, you'll definitely see level 2 of Excuse Me, Are You Greek?
Oh, I can't wait. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's the things that you post are just so hysterical, even like, and it's quick,
Thank you.
which is like, because
It is.
we have no attention span anymore.
Right.
But I just love that you said the whole thing, a lot, like lots of stuff about Greeks, about, in Greece and the food, the frappe, the lukmades, just people, you did the one with the basketball player just recently.
Yes,
I runs
yes,
up to
yes.
the basketball player. So
You know who that was? That was the Italian coach. So right now there's a big basketball tournament in Europe, and Italy just upset one of the favorites. And that was the coach who, if you know who that coach is, he hugs everybody. And he's one of those funny, outgoing guys. He goes and he hugged every single player from the opposing team after they won that game. That's the kind of character he was. So he finished that and he was running around crazy in excitement. And he sees Yanni in the hallway and he went and ran and just jumped onto him.
that was so funny. Oh, I didn't know exactly who that was, but the whole, just like the visual.
Right. But still, anybody just jumping on somebody else, a basketball player, is hilarious.
So to get to the Bethany thing one more time. So a lot of celebrities went to Greece this year. I mean, Goldie Hawn, Kate Hudson, Demi Moore. I mean, she's, I don't know. I think she's still there. I mean, she was there for like a long time. There's the Tom Hanks, Rita Wilson, of course,
right.
Big Fat Greek Wedding, I believe 3 was filmed, this year.
Yeah.
So I hope that we're going to hear something from you about all of that. I love that. For
sure.
Yeah. That I love all that.
No, for sure. The Bethany Frankel thing, though, going back to that, because we did start talking about it, we never finished, but she was the only one I've ever heard that complained about Greece. And she complained about something that was widely known, that Mykonos is a party island, like that's what she complained about. I'm like, you're this multi-millionaire, if not billionaire, and you ran into the tourist trap of Mykonos, not knowing what to expect, and you found yourself in the middle of this party scene. So I'm convinced it was either she just didn't know, or she went there and didn't get the treatment she thought she would get, like all these other people she sees on there, and had a bone to pick. And she took it out on the island. And don't get me wrong, I make enough fun of Mykonos for being too party because I'm older now, right? But still, that's Mykonos, that's Greece, it's our home. You don't say anything bad about it. There's people that live there. Mykonos isn't just a party island. It's got its small villages, it's got its year-round occupants that live there. And I don't know, it rubbed me the wrong way, the way she started ranting. So
well, because at the end of the day, we're like family. And you don't go against the family. Like, you don't talk about
right. You might have your little quarrels, but you never go against the grain.
Shut it. Don't say that's That's my uncle. I know.
Right.
No. I know he's obnoxious.
I could talk about him. You can't.
Right. No, that's it. I'll cut you. So like, that's how we are. So
that's exactly what it's like.
So I know. And she was like, it's like Las Vegas. I mean, she was really really dumping on it. I know. I totally, that's why it like really hit me like, oh my God.
Right. And that's why I don't go there really much anymore. That's just not my scene, but it's not a bad thing. It's just my taste has changed. I prefer these other islands.
Right.
But it's just weird that somebody in her position didn't know what Mykonos was all about. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just dumbfounded by that.
Right.
So,
Well, I'm sure it got a lot of hits because it was really, it really resonated.
well, she responded to me. I haven't
She
posted the
did?
response yet. She commented on my TikTok post.
What'd she say?
She was bragging. She goes, "Oh, because I called her uh what did I say? I said something like the reality TV star just didn't understand what Mykonos was, or something like that."
Right.
And she
You're on a
wrote a
reality
comment.
TV. You're cringeworthy. It was something like it was.
Yes, something like that. But because I called her a reality TV star, that's what she took issue with. And she posted a comment on my TikTok that I pinned to the top so everybody can see. She goes, "I've done so much more. Maybe we should compare resumes sometime."
Oh my God.
And I'm like, this is just a bitter human being.
You know, I find her, I have a little inside baseball on her too, but, on one hand, she's, she did a lot, talk about marketing, right? The whole Skinny Girl brand
Mhm.
was marketing. I mean, she made a granola bar that was 90 calories instead of 100. She called it Skinny Girl. Red, and I love red. She knew what she was doing, or her marketing
Yeah,
people, whoever it was, they did this great packaging, the skinny margarita. Like, I mean, it was genius. All of it. It was
sure.
really genius. She
Well,
started out.
she's been
Right,
on Shark Tank. So I
right,
mean, I know there's credentials there, but look, at the end of the day, all that happened because she was a reality TV star,
right,
right?
right.
That's
I
where her
know, right.
seed
It
money
brought her
came
up,
from.
right? Because she did Apprentice. She, yeah, she had done Apprentice. I think that was sort of like her first foray, but it was certainly the Real
Right.
Housewives that got her on the.
The
And she left.
notoriety,
She
right?
did it for a bunch of years. Then she did a spinoff. Then she left, and then she came back, and then she left. I mean, now I think
Right.
it's
Who
over.
knows? I don't know. I just know that's where she was from. I don't know much about her.
So
The
funny.
skinny girl thing, I didn't even know was her until all this happened. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is she talking about? And somebody's like, oh, she did this, she did that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, she definitely has a better resume than I do. So, but I just thought it was funny that that's what she picked up on to like
Right.
comment on some random TikTok page. It's not like I have a lot of followers on TikTok. I think I only have like 25,000 over there versus what I have on Instagram,
Right.
compared to her millions and millions. But she found the time to respond.
You hit a nerve.
I did. I
You
did.
did.
And I love that. That's essentially what I wanted. At the end of the day, that's all I wanted was to hit a nerve, because she hit a nerve with me with the comments about, Mykonos. So
That's so funny.
it is what it
What
is.
yeah, and then you have like a couple of girls that do videos. I wish I had the patience and the time to like do all this kind of stuff. But I also too, it's like I'm a one person show. So it's like I can't film myself. For me to it took years for me to buy a $10 tripod from
Right.
Amazon, and finally I have like a good phone to film
I have mine
myself.
right here.
Right, to film myself doing shows. And I finally learned how to just like make a little clip. But even still, even when I put stuff on, it's so bare basics. Like there's no bells and whistles. It's just like it's either like a photo with people or there's not much to it.
But that's going back to the whole thing of how the whole landscape is changing, from when I first started to now, in that 6 years alone. Just every year is a different year. And I feel like you take what you learn from one year, you go into the next, and then you see what's new, and you just got to fine tune it. I mean, I was fighting the whole jumping in front of the camera for a long time. I just didn't want to do it. That's not me. But then I'm like, if I don't do it, it's gonna die. All these people that are doing it are gonna take over. I didn't want that to happen either, because I'm very competitive when it comes to that sort of thing. So like, oh, I'll do it. And see my fatsa who wants to.
No, it's fun. No.
So,
Like I said, it was like finally when it popped up, it was like, oh, that's who he is, So it's like almost like Oz, It's like, who is that person behind all this stuff?
Right. I'd post a picture here and there, because even for the first 2 or 3 years, not even a photo or anything I did personally. It was more about just the jokes and the comedy and curation of all these other Greek comedian jokes and all that. And then slowly started interjecting some of it. And then when I realized social media now is becoming so personal that you have to, people aren't going to identify with a brand unless they can identify with a person within that brand. And you should see me trying to do that to my restaurant owners right now. Hey guys, you got to get in front of the camera. what, this Greek old man, no way, I'm not.
What
But I'm
are
like,
some
that's
good
what people want to see.
what are some good Greek restaurants in the LA area?
I get asked this all the time, and I have a hard time answering that question. My personal favorite is a fast casual gyro concept called Pita GR. It's in Downey. He's opening his second location in January. He's very successful, but he's got authentic gyro from Greece. He's got contemporary stuff. That's what I like. He understands he's not selling gyros to just Greek people. So you have your whole line of Greek style gyros, and then you have your whole contemporary line. So you can get like the chicken with honey mustard pita wrap, and all these other different flavors. So he's able to basically accommodate Americans and Greeks. So you can still go there and get the pork gyro with tzatziki, onions, and tomates, and it's fantastic. So in terms of fast casual, I will say that's it. There's a couple of restaurants in LA, one of which I haven't been to yet because it's fairly new, that I'm dying to try, but I looked at their Instagram and it looks amazing. I haven't been there, so I can't vouch for it, but it's called Taverna at Mar Vista. It looks authentic enough. It's owned by a Greek. I reached out. The first thing I did is DM them and say, hey, is this Greek owned or not? Because I did come across a couple of Greek restaurants that weren't Greek owned. And when I tried the food, I can tell, like you can just tell. So that was my first question to him. And he was laughing. He's like, yeah, I'm Greek. You got to come out. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll come check it out. So, free plug for him, Taverna at Mar Vista. We'll check it out and see what I think. There's another mainstream one called Petros. That's more fine dining. So I feel like there's a lack of it, though. I mean, there's a ton of fast food ones that if you want a quick gyro or a souvlaki are decent enough, but I think LA is missing some good Greek restaurants for sure.
What's the one in Malibu? Is that Telly's? What is what's in Malibu?
That's Tony's Taverna.
We were right. I did actually.
Or Taverna Tony's.
Yeah, I went to that one.
Yeah, and that one's okay, but it's Malibu. That's so far. If you want to go to Malibu, it's quite a drive. But like I said, in LA, there's I think a short in supply of Greek restaurants for sure.
And of course, I've been to Papoulias-Excuse, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Across the street from the church. The whole, just to give you a little background on a little bit of the Greek restaurant scene here. I mean, growing up, not a lot not Astoria, but I mean in Manhattan, there was I remember there was this one restaurant called Z's. It was on 14th Street. There was maybe like two. And right. I would say probably like 20 years ago, Molivos and Milos opened up, different owners. And I think that I felt like that started a trend. And there was another place that's still around called Uncle Nick's on 8th Avenue, a little more casual. That one's been around. And then they started to pop up there. I mean, there's definitely a lot more. Just even on the Upper East Side, there's like 4 or 5, which is, was a lot. But forever, growing up, I don't remember. And of course, not that we went out for Greek food because that's andropi.
Right. No, but growing up, there was nothing ever, so I'm lucky enough that there is something now, but
now it's still, And then, some of them do their own twist. Maria Loy, who's a very famous Greek chef, she's got a restaurant. And so there's a bunch. And some of them are, they're really beautiful. The one I went to in Hudson Yards, because there's one I'm getting the two mixed up. So there's the one in Beverly Hills, Avra originally was on 48th Street between Lexington and 3rd. That's the original Avra. I think they're Cypriot.
Right.
And that I would love that. Like when that first opened, that's great.
It's fantastic.
My husband loves that one. And then they opened on Madison and 60th, and then they opened at Rockefeller Center. But then I know they went to Beverly Hills, and
they came to Beverly Hills. So I think it's great, but it's pricey, and it's not like your everyday kind of food. You go for the experience. You go to pick out your fish. You go for the experience. To celebrate something.
Right.
There's another Greek one in Beverly Hills too that I should mention, called Estratorio Luca. Which is named after a kid who I know, he's a man now, but growing up, he was a kid. It's the name of his choreo in Greece. So that's in Beverly Hills also. But I think like in LA, like your everyday type of Greek restaurant where you can go sit down, grab something Greek, I think there's just a big void there. It's either, your fast food and fast casual, or, your fine dining like Petros and Luca and Avra.
Right.
That middle of the road is kind of just non-existent.
It was interesting. Yeah, interesting. I can't thank you enough for doing this. I really appreciate it. And
I appreciate you too.
I love talking to you. I could talk to you all night. And I definitely want to keep in touch. And just keep doing what you're doing. It's so entertaining. Everybody, you guys, you have to check out. Excuse me, are you Greek? And it's very funny. It'll make your day. And if you're looking for a mati, anything mati, certainly mati coffee cup, just go. This one's perfect. It's got the nice blue inside. It's good. It's well made. It's got definitely Greek on it. And then I want to tell you, I've gotten a million compliments on this show on the street.
That's awesome.
I like your shirt.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So, and it's not, and you know what? You can't tell. I mean, I'm very tiny. So like this fit perfectly. Like I was like,
awesome.
Like a small. So
my wife loves those shirts too. They're comfortable. She wears them all the time. So anytime I get samples, she loves them.
Well, Christmas is coming. So,
yes.
So I might have to fill an order, but anyway, thank you so much. And what a blessing to get to meet you. My name is Ellen Karis. Go, my Instagram is @GreekChickComic. Also, it's hooked up to Twitter. Go to Facebook, Ellen Karis Greek Goddess of Comedy. Website, ellenkaris.com. This podcast and all the other ones that we've been doing for 7 seasons. And till next time, bye.